Iko Nini. So the debate around Matiang'i inaendelea kuchacha, na vile inaendelea kuchacha kuna vile watu wanaendelea kuget like different opinions. Mtu kama mimi tayari nishapata stray bullets nikiambiwa nimelipwa na Ruto ndio nichome Matiang'i. But now it got even more ugly because kuna vile Fred Obachi ilikuwa jana. Fred Obachi demands apology from Robert Alai over health remarks. Then ikaendelea, veteran broadcaster Fred Obachi Machoka has issued a 48-hour ultimatum tukileleshwa MCA Robert Alai demanding a public apology over alleged defamatory comments about his health. Through lawyer Danstan Omari, Machoka accuses Alai of making malicious and false statements on Facebook that have harmed his reputation. Failure to apologize will trigger legal action. So kwa unashindwa hii story imetoka wapi? Kuna vile on Saturday kuna vile Alai alikuwa amepost, na alikuwa amepost basically akisema that umse anaitwa Matiang'i, he's not who people think he is, najua. And Matiang'i anakuwaga a very divisive figure because as a CS, was he an effective CS? Yes, he was effective, but still the other side of, was he someone who follows the law? No, he was not. So ukienda kwa like hata kwa magazeti like huu ni msee alikuwa ameapia mara kadhaa. Kulikuwa na ile moja kulikuwa na title, I think ilikuwa The Standard, ilikuwa kwa under enemies of the people. But one of his that stands out kabisa ilikuwa imeandikwa lots of impunity, and hii ilikuwa gajua kudisregard court orders. This guy never used to respect court orders, and so yeah, kuna watu wanasema that this is the guy that should be the next president. Alafu kuna watu kama sisi wale wana differ, tuko like we can still get someone, najua, even out of your pack ya kwenda kwa Mnyoro, we can get Kalonzo. Like, Kalonzo is not tough, Kalonzo is not, no, we don't need. I think tulikam tukabelieve this theory that you have to break the law to maintain the law in Kenya. No, you don't have to. You can just follow the law. And sasa ikikam to Matiang'i, of course, like kuna watu wamekuwa kimtetea sana. Kuna ubuda anaitwa Onyonka. So Onyonka alikuwa ameishia State of the Nation, as in Fixing the Nation ya NTV. Alafu historia record ya Onyonka yananika come up ya Matiang'i and his very consistent record in human rights abuses. So wacha tusikie hii conversation.
And under his tenure, Miguna's deportation.
True.
Under his tenure, Rivayala bodies that we've still never gotten answers to.
Yes.
Under his tenure, shutdown of local media. Sorry,
Shakahola.
Yes, Shakahola as well. So yeah, I'm just trying to reconcile those two. And you said, welcome to Gusii, Dr. Matiang'i. That's the same Dr. Matiang'i.
Let me tell you, the moment you changed Chapter 6 of the Kenyan Constitution, you lowered the bar. Let me ask, why are you discussing Matiang'i? Discuss William Ruto. Why is the president encouraging abductions? Why is it that people are being, your journalists being taken to court because they have done a documentary on the abductions? Why are we having 100 billion being stolen and nothing happens? I am not saying that we shouldn't interrogate Matiang'i. What I'm saying is we reduce the threshold in such a manner that we accepted that until somebody has been proven guilty, they are innocent until...
Yeah, so hii ndio imekuwaga argument, like until someone is proven guilty, they are innocent, and that makes sense. And yes, chapter 6 tulibaki tumeichukua tukapanguza nayo rasa na tukairusha mbali, which was a very big mistake for us to do. But sasa mi naweza sema the Matiang'i story, nasemaga mi kitu moja ile I like preaching about is I like the scientific way of looking at life. And scientifically nasemekanaga we are animals, and one of the instincts that we are born with as animals ni self-preservation, and I have to preserve myself. Nikiangalia someone like Mwafrika, I don't think naweza survive with a concept ya Iko Nini under Matiang'i presidency, because this is someone who impunity, like he represents impunity, he represents high-handedness, he represents disregard for the rule of law. As long as ye kile amesema lazima ifanyike, and that's what we have a problem with. It's not like what ama what. It's like, yes, is this guy, can he make a few things work? Yes, kila alifanyaga na passports, that was a very good thing. Kila alifanya, but the minute alipatiwa interior, and he's the reason why, and I'll keep repeating this, that msee wote akienda watch ile video nilifanyaga after Murkomen was declared the cabinet secretary wa interior, I related him to Matiang'I. This was kitambo kabisa kabla Matiang'I arudi, and I was saying the way the president needs someone who's going to follow orders and follow them blindly, and that's what Matiang'I was doing. These were orders za Uhuru na zilikuwa ni like dedisha as many people as possible, as long as we maintain any disregard court orders, I'll protect you, and he did everything like that. And that's not someone now, after learning from Uhuru impunity, now you want to bring him. We can still get, if we have to get one of those clowns, let's get Kalonzo. Najua, if you have to get from that pack, let's get someone who's not very like mtu ametulia kidogo, mtu ame, and even with a calm president things can still change. But wacha tuendelee kwa history ya Matiang'I, cause mimi saizi after kuangalia this whole pack and hoping that Kenyans want change, cause you hope, and the way that I'm hoping Kenyans want change is, if you want change, take that one weekend, travel Ocha, talk to your family, kaa chini nao waambie tuna need change, and for us to get this change we need to move away from the normal way of doing politics. And that's why we need to start thinking of the Maragas and the Omtatas and the Moraras. Like, we need to start thinking outside the box, because saa hizi, if worse come to us, Matiang'I versus Ruto, itakuwa business as usual. Abductions na ujinga kaizo zitaendelea. If we are to go from that same pack, Kalonzo, I'd expect abductions isikue. But yes, but wacha tuendelee kusikia stories za Matiang'I
till they are proven guilty. My position is, it is Matiang'i's responsibility to be accountable, to be answerable, and he will be explaining to Kenyans why those things happened, if they did happen. My position is very simple. I've said this publicly before. I think he mishandled the Miguna scenario. I have mentioned in public and said I think Miguna deserves an apology from him unequivocally, and I think it is important for him to explain the circumstances under which those decisions was being made. Does it exonerate himself from those issues? My answer is no. Should that disqualify him from running for president? No. Why? Because show me one of the guys running for president who has better record, worse record. We are nearly all the same. Thugs, crooks, and something in between. That has been my position.
Yes, Keo. So, mse mwenyewe akibonga juu Matiang'I amesema thug, crooks and everything in between. So, to replace a thug, a crook, with another thug crook that we know is thug crook is a mistake. And like, let's not do that. And this, I know, hurts a lot of feelings, because wase wako like, utu ndio mse tunafikiria anaweza get up or z. Kuna watu wengine. Like, let's just be realistic. We need to stop the presidency kuwa this thing where you can break the law. No, you're supposed to be someone who can still work within the law and still make things work. Najua, and the same thing inasemekanaga, like, if you're a good boss, si lazima ukuwe hapo ukiscream at people na vitu kama hizo. You can be a good boss and still be whatever. And that's the problem who have hata na mse kama Magufuli. Like, Magufuli did a lot of good, but he always felt like criticism was this thing that shouldn't happen. You see, a Matiang'I would be like, try to take the same work ethic ya Matiang'I and toa his fragile ego where he gets all nini. But don't forget, he also has a corruption case. Like, you come to history, a corruption case, we have to understand that the biggest problem that this country has, of course, is corruption. I think that's one of the things that we keep forgetting. And that's why, so far, my ideal candidate is this one person less. Like, at the beginning, on him disregard, but at least I've started seeing that he started believing in himself and thinking that this can actually work. And that's all it takes for someone to believe. And the person that I'm thinking about, of course, ni ubuda anaitwa Maraga. And Maraga, kitu moja ile mi na yeye waga tumekubaliana ni the biggest problem in Kenya ni corruption. So ijidanganya, sijui ati ni what ama what. The minute we stop corruption, the minute we change this country. Matiang'I has a corruption case. Maraga does not.
Kitu ambao kimefanya nchi yetu kuwa pahali tuko ni wizi. Mnajua hiyo? Ni wizi. Wizi ya pesa yetu. Wizi wa pesa yetu. Na niliona Olari, kumbe hii mambo mnajua. Budget inafanywa, unaambiwa budget hii department inapewa pesa kiasi fulani. Ukiangalia ile pesa unashangaa kama watu wamepewa hii pesa, kwa nini wanaonekana hivi?
Yeah, unacheki. So ikikam kitu kama devolution for example, na hizi ni kitu zile waga zina come up when the thieves are fighting, they'll end up giving information. So I think ilikuwa ni Oburu Odinga ama nani, I think alikuwa anazusha na buda mwingine anaitwa Orengo, akasema that Orengo ama Siaya county is given 8 billion shillings a year. And remember, one thing that I say about Kenya is we've come to disrespect a billion, and a billion is so much money. The example that I normally give ni Ken Okoth. Ali built a whole school, bathrooms kwa hiyo shule ama choo, zinazitaga choo, toilets that is, schools, library, blah 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 for 47 million shillings. 8 billion shillings should be enough to transform Siaya. The fact that Siaya still looks like Sianda is a problem, macheki. And this is another thing ile happening in Kenya, where we look at someone's record and they are like, oh, mse amekuwa na very good human rights record. So mse kama Orengo, since he's been mse wetu wa human rights, now the fact that he's a mediocre governor, we are supposed to just forget that. No, things should not work that way. Najua Orengo is a mediocre governor, and so is Anyang' Nyong'o, so is like hakuna governor wote neza kaa chini hapa Kenya nikwambie like they know what they are doing. Inakuwaga tu ni guesswork. Like they get so much money, but either ni sijui ma sittings za MCAs sijui ni nini, you're supposed to just develop, just have focus. Have 8 billion shillings. Is there a big hospital in Siaya? No. You start with the basics. Healthcare. Acheki. After healthcare tunaenda kwa education. After education tunaenda kwa infrastructure na vitu kama hizo. Because ukisha solve education na health, infrastructure itakuwa very easy to solve. Iko Nini. So kwa majuni wanatry kutuma pesa Kenya, the best platform kutumia ni LemFi. Because LemFi ukupatiaga the best exchange rates. Na apart from that pia inakupatia the highest limits to send. Unzabaki umesend $8,000 in one day. Hiyo ni close to around 1 million shillings. Ama $16,000 in 1 week. Hiyo ni around 2 million shillings. Ama $32,000 in 1 month. Hiyo ni around 4 million shillings. So try kuimagine unafanya kitu kama construction hapa Kenya. LemFi unachangamka nayo haraka haraka. Alafu pia kitu moja poa na LemFi ni saa hizi kuna vile unabaki pia umetumia till na pia pay bill za M-Pesa, ubaki umelipa bills ukiwa huko masaid za US. So tuseme wewe ulipiaga familia yako internet ama unalipia stima, unazalipa ukiwa huko na ubaki umetake advantage of those good exchange rates that I was talking about. But pia kuna kitu moja inaitangua cashback. So for your first $100 transaction, ukituma utabaki umepatiwa $20 cashback. Alafu pia in that same transaction kuna vile utabaki umesupport Iko Nini, because Iko Nini pia tutabaki tumepata $20. Na story behind hii ni kitu inaitwa referral. So tumia referral code Iko Nini. Nacheki simple tu hivyo, Iko Nini as one word, na utabaki umepata $20 cashback on your first transaction ya $100 and above. Na pia Iko Nini tabaki tumepata kitu, so utakuwa umetusupport. So unangoja nini? Tumia LemFi. LemFi, international payments for everyone. Iko Nini. So these are the things you're supposed to look at. But the fact that we always endorse mediocrity. Like Orengo has not done anything in Siaya that makes me think he anarepresent kitu yote. Like, oh, hizi vitu ni hard kuchange, hizi vitu ni inanikumbusha kuna video fulani msali ni tag. And it was a video of some white guy akisema that Africa inakuwaga run by a cartel of criminals and what and what. And I actually agreed with that. Nili agree now. So wacha tusikize hii part ya Maraga, alafu sasa turudi kwa Matiang'I tena. Ucheki the difference. So you have someone who represents actual change, but look, very calm. Unajua, he has that calm demeanor. So a lot of you mtafikiria just since he has a calm demeanor, he can't be a great president. You need someone calm. Someone to be like, as long as tumefuata sheria, hakuna shida. Si kwenda hapo. Hiyo ni upumbavu. You're running kids. Unaweza taka mdosi wako leo anashinda kikuscreamia kwa masikio. Ama you want someone who you can just follow his lead. Nacheki. A lot of people that followed admired Bob Collymore. Atakwambia he was a very calm leader. A lot of people that admire saizi Peter Ndegwa atakwambia, you can see just from his demeanor, very calm guy. You don't have to be shout kwa masikio za watu ndio watu wakusikie. So hii calm demeanor ya Maraga is something I really respect.
Lakini hiyo pesa inaenda pahali ingine. Si mnaelewa hivyo? Tukisimamisha hiyo, utaona daktari wakikimbia kwa streets. Utaona walimu wakikimbia kwa streets. Wafanyikazi wa serikali watalipwa at the right time. And I'm telling you the truth, hiyo utaona. Hii ikikwisha, uwezi kwenda kwa hospitali waambiwe ati hakuna panado.
So the main problem that we have in this country is corruption. And apart from corruption, of course, is impunity. And that's why we cannot bring impunity number one kukuja kusolve impunity. So that's the reason why nitaendelea kusemekana nimelipwa, but I don't see myself being hapa nikiambia watu that Matiang'I will bring the change that we deserve. No, he will not. He is part of the problem. He is part of the impunity. He is nini and vile musemaga like kitu nikatsiaga na Kenya ni atunaga hata kitu inaitwa positive tribalism, because Onyonka niko sure one of the main reasons why he feels like he needs support Matiang'I is the tribal factor, but Maraga is there also, najua. So eventually aliulizwa juu kina Maraga na Morara, and he ended up, because the way the stars are lining, it seems the next president should come from Kisii, Nyamira, nafaa kuwa Mogaka fulani. And if it's one of those Mogakas, Morara or Maraga, I'll be super happy. If it's Matiang'I, I'll be like, nah.
So I'm arguing. I mean, let me give you an example. Look at Donald Trump. He's been convicted as a rapist. He's been convicted as somebody who has broken 20, 30 laws. He has been convicted of crimes except against humanity, but all sorts of crimes. And yet in reality, even the same standard which is high in the US, Trump went on and won elections, and that is it. So I'm not justifying Fred's behavior. What I am saying is we must methodically understand that we do not have angels. Even me. I mean, if you went to my closet and checked out what was in there, you'd most probably be shocked. And yet I'm constantly discussing and saying, listen, we can do it better. We don't have to steal. Okay, maybe I've stolen once or twice, maybe small, or maybe I didn't. But I'm saying we must stop this issue of pontificating and carrying an attitude as if we are looking for Jesus Christ who's going to come and save everybody in the world.
So hii part nishaisemaga, hii part we will not get an angel from heaven. And that's why you see, even as I give my opinion and I'm like, Maraga and Umtata, Morara would be good for us, I still turn and say, what's come to us? Let's get a Kalonzo. Nacheki. And because I'd really love Wakenya wajue hiyo. You don't need that high-handedness. You don't need to be rude. You don't need to be aggressive to be an effective administrator. Because as a president, you're like the administrator. Una administrate inchi. Si lazima kuwa na shout, unakosea watu heshima, unaingia pale, una disregard court orders. Unaweza follow sheria tu vizuri kabisa and things would work. Because try to imagine a situation whereby we actually have an independent police force. Ile makarao najua like if you kill protesters, wewe mwenyewe ndio utalipa. Hakutakuwa na kukutetea, hakutakuwa na nini. Karao najua that if the president commits a crime, anaweza kuchapwa handcuffs, because unajua hizi developed countries zinakuaga hivyo. That's why I think kasko wrong hizi makantri kama kina Makorea wa president wameenda jela na vitu kama hizo. I take it. So lazima tuangalie hivyo. We have to forget this idea of you have to be aggressive, you have to be and the people who believe that you have to be aggressive. Nicheki kuna mse fulani aliandika sijui Matiang'I will be a what dictator. Do you know what it means to be a dictator? Like it means nizi stories za Moi, that's dictatorship. Yeah? Your dictatorship inakamigi na lawlessness, inakamigi na hizo story kama za human rights abuses, inakam na torture, inakam na vitu kama hizo. Just because one person is tortured by the Ruto government, if a different person is tortured by the Matiang'I government, it does not change the difference. It's still torture. And that's what we are supposed to run away from, not run to.
So then let's let Ruto run. Continue running.
My attitude is take the two if you think they're both criminals and let's judge them fairly.
Because
The
here
bar
you
is in
are,
hell.
you're saying
Yes.
that, you have so much criticism against William Ruto.
He is the president.
And then you say, okay, so here is William Ruto, he is so wrong, but here is Matiang'I, but what's wrong?
No, but
Matiang'I,
Ruto is the president.
But you want Matiang'I to become
Ruto
president.
is the president. My argument
And
is
you want
this.
Matiang'I to become president.
Absolutely. If you look at what I would call, quote unquote, the crimes of Ruto and Matiang'I is 10%. That's all I'm saying.
Because he's not yet president.
No, because if you look at the issues which are raised, let me tell you this. We do not have a government agency that has got the responsibility to tell us what happens here in River Yala. You guys talk about it. All right? You guys have not even been able to do a documentary to see somebody saying, yes, I saw Matiang'I give these orders, these instructions. You are just talking about hypothetical.
Not hypothetical.
But wait, Latif, wait.
Senator, it's
But
not
the truth,
hypothetical.
let me finish, then you come.
Okay, so hasa walileta juu sana. So yes, this Matiang'i debate so sasa imefanya mpaka kuzinafanya watu wanakosana, because one thing that I always say, inaitwa nini, politics inakuwaga emotive. So emotions are very important when it comes to political contests, and that's the reason why you'll find sasa saizi Machoka na amekosana na Alai mpaka inabidi waanze kupelekana kotini. But as we look for change, please let's look for change that still preserves every industry, that still preserves human rights, and still preserves, and that's possible. We should never look at things the way, because don't forget, the public sector, the government in Africa is mostly run as a criminal organization, yes. But tukiangalia on the other side, tukiangalia like the private sector inakuwaga run in a much better way, and you can see that the private sector actually ends up bringing more change and more what than gava ufanya. So it means that si lazima tukue mathegi, and hiyo ndio concept moja ile naweza furahia sana tukitoka from, like si lazima tukue mathegi, and I think that's the only reason saa hizi try kutetea buda mwingine ni hiyo tu, tuko na the concept that for you to run Africa, ama for you to run any African country, you have to be ready to break the law, blah blah blah. Na hiyo ni kitu na chikigi argument yengi watu wanasemaga. So okay, wacha tucheki ubuda. Kuna ubuda fulani ule nimeshinda nikibonga juu yake, alikuwa anabonga juu ya Africa. So Africa lazima ujue, Africa has been run by criminals for a very long time, and these criminals exist. The number one criminal hapa Kenya, of course, ilikuwa Jomo Kenyatta. Super bad criminal. Corruption, impunity, blah blah blah. The number two criminal, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. Land grabbing, murder, corruption, kila kitu. Kibaki, not as a big criminal as the first two, but he was still a criminal. Najua, a billionaire from what? Working in politics, grabbing, blah blah blah. Another criminal, Uhuru Kenyatta, akafanya vitu zake hapo. Pia anakuja mpaka anatuambia vizuri kabisa watu wanaiba 2 billion a day na hakuna kitu yote anafanya. The only way unaweza justify crime ni kama wewe mwenyewe uko part of the crime. Alafu sasa hizi tuko na another criminal presently in office. Najua ule ukiangalia trail yake utapata the Mteshi land ilibaki imeenda, alafu utapata tu ni corruption cases after corruption after corruption. Na history ya corruption of course inagoigi back to ile quote siku hizi napenda sana, ile watu walikuot PLO Lumumba akisema, in Japan a corrupt person hujiua, in China the corrupt person huuliwa, in Europe they jail him, in Africa he will present himself for an election. So kulikuwa na hii clip ilikuwa ina go round ya a certain guy, and alikuwa na bonga juu Africa, and wacha tusikize part of it.
Then it's time for us to just put the imperial hat back on to say, we're going to govern those countries if you're incapable of governing yourselves, because enough is enough. We're done being invaded.
Because our own national security risk is at stake.
Exactly.
National security interests are at stake.
You can say that about pretty much all of Africa. They're incapable of governing themselves and benefiting their citizens because the governments there are all about looting and pillaging and lining their pockets and going shopping in Paris instead of actually making their country better.
People on the left are going to watch this. They're going to say, wait a minute, Eric Prince is talking about being a colonialist again.
Absolutely. Yes.
Of course he was saying that.
Okay. So, huu ni dem Lami, okay, ameishu kwa America, hata kama cheki story. And I partially na agree na history ya recolonization, because the sad thing waga, like, all these people believe in is looting. That's why when we think of Ruto, we think of all the cases za corruption. When you think of someone like Matiang'I, like his nickname the Roraka land thief, we think of course of the Uhuru regime and the Kenyatta name and the amount of looting that happened from the Moi name. And we need to walk away from that. We need to realize that the president does not have to steal. The president does not have to be the richest person in the room. Nachiki. And that's the problem we have in Africa, where every president is basically the richest person. Apart from, because hata umse akibonga hivi, there are countries that stand out. Country kama Botswana, like every time you hear about Botswana, you're amazed. Niko nabonga na a friend of the show, and si tunamwitaga Ras, but ni msewa ni tap photography. So kuna documentary amefanya juu ya Botswana, so I think it's being launched, is it next week on Wednesday? Okay, I need to get the date right, but ni event na plan kuishia. And one of the things that he told me that I found to be super interesting is, as soon as Botswana discovered that they had diamond mines, what they did is, well, you make sure that every citizen is taken care of. So in Botswana, tukifika at the age of 18, you get a piece of land in your ancestral home, another piece of land in a city. So the city inaweza kuwa like the capital city ya Botswana, ama inaweza kuwa somewhere else, but you get those two things. Botswana iko na universal healthcare, so healthcare is free. Iko na free education, and free education even within ama outside the borders. So that's what Botswana has. And Botswana for a very long time haikuwa na debt. They made a mistake and elected like a thug fulani, and that thug tried to change a few things, so now they got rid of him after one term. So now they are back to a president who seems to believe in that Botswana dream. So yes, can African countries run themselves? Yes, African countries can run themselves. Have we let them be run by thugs and thieves and looters who only do that? Yes, we've done that. And it's time to walk away from that. And if we need to walk away from that, we need to change our mindset. And we need to tukisha change mindset, tubaki tumejua that we can be run by decent human beings, people who don't just believe in looting, pillaging, and people who don't believe in extrajudicial ways of handling problems and conflicts. Iko Nini.